Welcome to Reality D times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we'll update. I'm Tanika, and today we're going to be discussing last week's episode of MILF Manor. I was hoping I could have gotten this recorded, done. You would have had this yesterday, but unfortunately Friday was tough. Still coming off of the cold I had. Saturday spent recording for Next Take podcast, and then Sunday I had a major headache. So I definitely was knocked all the way down. Now, not 100%, but I'm here because I said I would be. But let's do some hot goss. I think I only have, I might have a couple pieces actually, but I'll do one for this episode just because this one is late, so I don't want to spend too much time doing hot goss. So I'll split what I do have in the 2 episodes. But what I will say, if we still have behind on UK and Toe, don't worry, they will be coming as quickly as I possibly can to you. But let's do a piece of hot goss. So this is an update on the Love is Blind case with Renee Posh. Now, if you don't remember the details of this, I've been talking about this now probably since the last season of Love is Blind. It's kind of when this popped up. But it basically having to do with a lawsuit that she brought against Netflix, I believe Netflix, as well as Delirium TV, who is the production behind Love is Blind. And this was basically something having to do with false imprisonment and not proper background checks on the guy that she dated or was engaged to, which this would have been the guy who's like, I want my daughter to date someone like JP. Yeah, that guy. Anyway, so here's a little bit of the update. The last thing we discussed was that they were going to be doing an arbitration, which is pretty much in the contract that she signed, that they would have to do an arbitration. And I think she was appealing them doing the arbitration, even though she signed a contract which stated that she would have to do so. So this is the update from that. So Renee's attempt to appeal the decision of her lawsuit has been denied. Renee, as we all know, which I kind of just went through, but I'll go through again, whose storyline was not shown on season 5 of the Netflix series, sued the streamer and its production company Delirium TV back in January. In the complaint obtained by People at the time, she claimed to be subject of unlawful employment practices, unfair competition, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. So in March, the judge handling the case, Los Angeles Superior Court Judge Bruce G. Iwasaki, denied Renee's request to avoid arbitration in the lawsuit, which marked a major victory for Delirium TV. So now, to the update, on July 3rd, People obtained a new filing that stated that Judge Iwasaki has now denied Renee's petition to appeal the arbitration, yet another victory for the production company. In the initial denial from March, Judge Iwasaki said that Renee and her lawyers had, quote, absolutely no evidence that participating in arbitration, which is required under her agreement with Delirium, would cause her harm, according to a press release. Renee was also allegedly, quote, asked to stop her unauthorized interviews and promptly mediate the dispute, and she was repeatedly warned by production personnel as well as by Delirium's lawyers that her continued breaches of the participant agreement would result in Delirium filing arbitration per the release, which we did mention that in the last update that we talked about. In a statement, attorneys for the production company said they were very pleased with the results of the hearing, which they said was as a result of Renee's, quote, violations of her confidentiality and publicity obligations. Arbitration is the procedure that is spelled out in the agreement Ms. Posh signed when she applied to participate in Love is Blind. This is in the statement. But rather than defend against Delirium's claims in arbitration, Miss Posh and her lawyers chose to file a headline-grabbing complaint in court against Delirium and Netflix with a morass of arguments challenging the enforceability of the agreement that she signed. In her initial filing, Renee claimed that Netflix and Delirium TV matched her with her ex-fiancé Carter Wall, and despite claiming that, quote, all participants had been vetted and were, quote, marriage material, she became utterly terrified to be around him, as we know. So that's basically it for this. Like I said, I'll just do the one for now. I do have another one and others coming, but I will hold off on that until we do the next episode so that we're not too focused on this. So let's get to the reason that we are here. MILF Manor, Season 2, Episode 10, Mean MILFs. So, I had to write this down as a fellow Canadian where this is being filmed in Canada. This Nickelback music is really interesting. Listen, I am a Nickelback fan. Call it what it is. Never said I was a wise man. Never said I was a broke man stealing. And this is how you remind me. That's what I sound like. Anyways. But Anthony is like, listen, I told Annette that I was, vibing with Rebecca because we're kind of now talking about the day after Lynette has left. And he's like, she was okay. That's incorrect. She did say to him, do what you gotta do, but she was never okay. So in his defense, like, yes, to him, he thought she was okay. And maybe she should have told him she wasn't, but she didn't want to seem like a desperate person. I think in her mind, it's like, you should just know if I am or not okay, because they were all about me until this girl showed up, and then now she showed up, and I'm being pushed aside. Like, you should just know what's appropriate and what's inappropriate, and he's been fairly inappropriate in terms of how he's handling this developing relationship with Rebecca and how he's dealing with the already existing relationship with Lynette. Like, anyway. So, yeah, he's like, I wish you would have just told me that you don't like me talking to Rachel. And you heard me correctly. That was not a mistake. My guy literally referred to Rebecca as Rachel. And whoever he was talking to, I think it was Darren. He's like, you mean Rebecca? He's like, oh yeah, Rebecca. Sir, who the fuck is Rachel? There's someone else out there, y'all. That wasn't a slip. That wasn't like a slip of, oh, I just got Rebecca's name wrong. Which, that's concerning in of itself as well. But who the fuck is Rachel? There is another woman out there named Rachel that he's also dealing with back home in New York. Like, you know what I mean? Someone ain't right. Anyway, he says, I miss her. He's like, I wasn't ready to commit, but I also didn't want to lose her. But then that just kind of goes to show you wanted your cake and eat it too. And Lynette was right in leaving. Lynette knew that's exactly what you wanted. And you're not going to play with her. You're not going to waste her time and play your games with her just so you can get your shits and giggles. Like, that's unfair to Lynette. Anyway, moving on. Kelly Mack doesn't like what happened at all with, Lynette, Rebecca, Anthony, and the square that is this situation. And Kelly says, she is homie hopper. That's what she said, that she is a homie hopper. That is a new one. I've never heard that before, but that's what she says she is. They're like, let's bring her over here. Let's, talk to her, figure out her side of things. But Kelly's like, no, I said my piece yesterday. I don't have any more to say to her. Y'all can do that. I'm going to leave. Barbie's like, listen, I wasn't even a part of this. So she's going to leave too. So Rebecca, comes on over, and Kelly Mack is like, we would love to hear from you in terms of kind of what happened. And Chris was like, listen, it's been like 3 dudes in 2 days, ma'am. Like, you just, You're just here doing all of the shit. And Rebecca is like, I thought that's what we came here for. You know, we came here for the same reasons, to get to know guys, whatever, and go from there. Which, again, I'm going to reiterate, I said this in the last episode. In her defense, she is coming in later. She is doing kind of what everyone else did. But again, as I've kind of mentioned, the difference between the two is that, like, she's stepping on toes, whereas the women have not really stepped on each other's toes. At least once things were established, and things are established. But that's the thing, when you're having women coming in later in the game, you are going to step on toes, because how else are you going to make yourself, you know, known and visible to these men, right? I mean, men are dumb. They see something shiny and new and bubbly, they're gonna go for it anyways. But how else is she gonna get herself in the door, basically? But yeah, Kelly Mac is like, we are here to find a person, but it's just about how you maneuver. But she is still gonna do her thing. This isn't really gonna deter her. And in her defense, she really is only focused on Connor and Anthony. And I mean, Kelly is done with Connor and Lynette's left. So really, there's no one for her else to really worry about. She isn't talking to other guys for her to be stepping on anyone's toes at this point. So she's like, it's her turn to play. Isn't that a game? Isn't there a game where it's like, it's bop it. It's your turn to play. So she's literally bopping and twisting and pulling, and she's like, it's my turn to play. Like, what the hell? You know what I mean? Anyways. So Chris and Barby apparently had sex last night. Coolies. Let's move on. So Rebecca says, I am usually not a man stealer. Something tells me that's not accurate, but who am I? And meanwhile, we got two new dudes coming in while the ladies kind of watch David climb a tree. So we got Rob and Fletcher. Think liar, liar, Fletcher. So their uncle and nephew. Fletcher is actually really hot, and Crystal wants to use Rob to get to Stacy, and he wants to kind of make him jealous. And I'm like, okay, ma'am, if you need to make a man jealous at this point in the process where you should be a little further along, he ain't it. He ain't it. That's all I'm gonna say. But wait for it. We got stuff to say about it. So the new guys are going to go mingle, get to know everybody. And Fletcher asks Christina to talk. And we kind of learn a little bit about him from this part of it. So he owns his own business. He was in the military. He is 30 years old, so he's one of the older guys here. But Christina feels, because she's already talking to two different guys, which would be David and Sam, that it would kind of be a little weird adding a third into the mix, so she's not gonna go there. Then we see Kelly and Rob talking, and he is 59. He definitely looks good for his age, and he is a bodybuilder. So he's also been divorced for some time, but I think I catch that a little later, so we'll get to it. But then we just kind of do a little bit of a detour. We got Joey and Shauna talking, and we learn here from him that he has never actually dated outside of his race, which I think, again, he's only 21 years old. It's not necessarily surprising. Maybe there's a chance in hell that he could, but again, like, when you're that young, like, you still have your shit about you, and like, you still have things kind of coming your way, kind of thing. So we never know what experiences he could have had. I mean, me personally, I guess I technically had dated outside of my race, but when you're adding kind of the sexual aspect to it, which let's face it, my guy is biting butts. I don't think I really ever dated outside of my race in that sense until, you know, still early 20s, but like, it takes a bit, I think, for anybody. So I'm not necessarily concerned by him not dating outside of his race at 21 years old. Yeah, so he says no, he hasn't dated outside his race. He also has never actually been in a serious relationship. Again, I would be more concerned if like Connor or even Chris or now Fletcher hadn't been in a serious relationship in their late 20s into 30. I would be more concerned about that. About that sense of someone not being in a serious relationship. She was 21. I was not in a serious relationship either. Not much older than 21, 22, but I was not in a serious relationship either, or what you would constitute a serious relationship. And even if you think something was serious, it really truly wasn't until you really experience something serious. So it's just like, that's not surprising to me either. Now, as an older woman, like me being me at 30, tell my 33, me at 33, I am concerned by a person not have been in really a serious relationship or any form of relationship. So I can only imagine someone in their mid to late 40s hearing that from somebody. That's a concern. I am concerned. I wanted at 21, 22, that doesn't bother me. At 30 and up, that bothers me. I would expect you to be in a somewhat serious relationship, because then how do I know or trust that you know what's serious and what isn't? How do I trust your judgment there? So that's a concern. But again, him being 21 years old, in hindsight, that is not a concern. So yeah, he also feels that the reason he hasn't really been in a serious relationship kind of stems from his parents' divorce. He hasn't seen a successful relationship before. So, like, how can he trust whatever he potentially could be in could be successful when he's never seen that before? And I get that thought process. I don't know if he needs therapy to work through that, because what your parents' marriage falling apart, or whatever failures they experience, or whatever, it does not reflect on you. I know that's easier said than done, but that doesn't reflect on you. You can choose to rise above it or not. That's completely up to you. But he seems like a really great guy. And I think with a little more life experience and a little more maturity coming his way, because he's fairly mature, but there's still work to be done. I think he has such potential to be a really great partner for somebody in the future. I just don't think that's now, but he also has to trust himself into that. And that's the thing. Like, if he doesn't, he was only here to have fun, which is fine. But like, I'm just saying, he bit a couple butts and he's happy. We see Rob again talking to Crystal. And don't we see Stacy just seeing the shit, staring the shit down? And I'm like, what are you egging yourself into, Stacy? Because all of a sudden you care? Because you don't seem to care before. You had no issue asking Shauna out to go have drinks in front of her. But as soon as you see her talking to somebody else, don't you just ready to start having a pissing contest? Like, are you kidding? I was frustrated in this moment. But yeah, he's just like, I don't like it. I don't like it. Like, my guy. But Rob is divorced. That's kind of, we learn a little bit more about his situation. So he is divorced. He has two kids, two daughters. And Stacy, through this, he's kind of like, I don't want her to move on to the next guy. You don't want her to move on to the next guy, even though you were ready to move on to the next girl right in front of her face. You keep making these excuses as to why you can't make more of an effort in her direction. Like, I'm a loss for words right now. Like, he's playing fucking games. And I can see he's playing fucking games. I think deep down Crystal sees he's playing fucking games. But yeah, she still wants to make this show work. And it's just like, my girl, catch a hint. We have a whole ass movie called He's Just Not Really That Into You, or the fuck that movie's called, with all of Hollywood in it, for this exact reason. To open our eyes. Not just women, but everybody. He might just not be that into you, or they just in general. Woman, man, they be, doesn't matter. They're just not that into you. Catch a fucking hint. But anyways. Then Crystal and Stacy are talking. And he says, yeah, I asked her on a date, talking about Shauna, but, she's new. And I just wanted to see where it was at. So because, again, she's the shiny new toy, you're going for it. Meanwhile, leaving Crystal in the dust. And she's letting you. But, she said no. So, I mean, what's the problem? The problem is, basically, as I've been kind of saying through all of this, is you would have gone on that quote unquote date, gotten to know her. What if it was successful? You would have left Crystal, again, as I say, in the dust. Stop playing fucking games here. But anyways, Crystal is like, but I make it clear that I am interested when I get nothing back from you. And he says, I feel you want something overnight. It hasn't been fucking overnight. She doesn't necessarily want you to propose to her, my guy, but she would like, even if you did some form of physical touch, hold her hand or hug her or something. That's a step in the right damn direction. Instead, you're just kind of like, ooh, I'm not ready, which I respect that, but it's just like, you don't have to be fully ready to be in some form of a relationship to show affection or show interest to her, and you're not doing any of those things. This just doesn't make any sense to me. But she says to him, no, but you know what? We're communicating, and that is good. So she's literally just taking the scraps that he didn't even realize he was providing her. It's not enough. For me, it wouldn't be enough. And I don't think for her it's enough either, but she's willing to just take it. And I don't know why. But anyways, we got a text. We got a challenge. So we're going to find out really who has more knowledge, the younger men or the older men, in terms of just women. So we're going to kind of go through the questions, we'll go through the answers, and then again, we'll go through who the winner is. So the first question is, what is the best sex position? Now, I'm going to give my opinions as much as I can throughout this. I personally think, for me, that the best sexual position is doggy. However, doggy with a twist. I don't know exactly what position is called, but when you're lying flat on your stomach, perfect. My boyfriend will attest. Perfect position. But these men, boys, literally say missionary. No. So here's the thing. These are little kids. Think that missionary is something that women want to do. No, it's not what women want to do. We don't. I mean, if it's missionary with a twist, then fine. But if it's just boring old ass missionary, I can't even tell the last time I had boring ass missionary. Actually, that's not true. It hasn't been that long. But again, it depends. It depends on the situation, depends on who it's with, depends on all those things. When you're in a relationship or whatever kind of relationship, sometimes it calls for that, but it's really not that fun. Sorry, babe. It is his favorite position, not mine. But it's like, you know, whatever. But it's just not, in a case like this, it's not the thing that I would be like, yeah, that's it. No. But the DILFs basically say whatever position makes her come 3 times. The ladies vote DILF for that particular question because, I mean, what woman's going to pass that up? Anyways, next question. How many times a week would you want to have sex? So the sons say 21 times. So basically 3 times a day. And actually, I think that was the dad. Sorry, the dad said that. And the sons say as much as she needs. And obviously the women vote for the sons in this case. So it's 1-1. And the next question is, which body part of the woman should you lick to turn her on? So the sons say, I believe, I might be wrong here. I believe they say pussy and or clit. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, that's what you do once you've tried other avenues first. You know, there's a way to turn her on before going straight to that. Now, I think that comes with a little bit of experience. So, yeah. And this was definitely Joey's answer, and Anthony's like, Lord. But the dads say every inch of her, simple, easy, straight to the point. And you can use your imagination with that. It doesn't necessarily have to be that area of the body. It could be her neck. It could be her stomach. It could be her legs. It could be anything. Whatever does it for her. Everyone's different with that. So obviously women vote and the DILFs get that point. So next question. What is the best way to turn women on? So the sons say reassurance, which is an answer that's kind of stick-handled by Chris, which is something that I guess Barby has kind of said to him, kind of does it for her, is that constant kind of really and truly validation with basically is what he's kind of saying here with reassurance. And the dads say, do all of the chores and send her on a shopping spree. And all the women enjoyed that answer, including Barby. That's important for later. And they vote for the DILFs. And that was the last question. And the DILFs win. And basically what they win is bragging points. And the sons lose. And their losing thing is they're going to have to clean the house. Do whatever they are told to do. So here's the part with this. Chris is pissed. He's pissed because he says that, you know, Barby has said that that's kind of what she needs. She needs the reassurance. So the fact that Barby didn't even vote for his answer, but voted for the DILFs really kind of got to him. So I'm going to just go through this and give my 2 cents in a minute. So we're not kind of going all over the place here. So as I think I mentioned as they clean the house, but now Barby and Chris are kind of talking, and Barby can tell that something is wrong with him. Like he doesn't have to say much or do much or whatever. She just knows. And he says, you know, it's just the reassurance answer. You know, you told me one thing, but then you vote for them or whatever. And she says, it's not about the shopping aspect of things, but it's about doing all of the chores, you know, because she has always had to kind of do this herself. She's a single mom, been a single mom since she was 19, 20 years old. And she explains that to him. And she says, like, I've always had to kind of do for everyone, raise my kid, take care of myself. Sometimes I had to pay my mom's phone bill. Like, she's kind of always had to do for others. So it would be just nice for someone to do for her. And I totally get, she understands that he might not be financially, stable in order to kind of be in a comfortable spot for her to kind of take his money and just go at it. So she's not necessarily expecting him to be financially stable because of the fact that he seems to be more mature is kind of what drew her to him. So, and she says that like it's also very different than the relationships that she's kind of been in her past. So that's kind of all of those things, even though like maybe some of the men you dated before maybe were more financially stable, maybe had the money where they could have done those things for her. The maturity level, and not only that, but their just respect level for her was a lot lower than what Chris is. So like they seem to kind of balance those things out. But he's definitely taken this thing and just kind of ran with it. And maybe it's an age thing, maybe it's an life experience thing. He hasn't had to be a single parent. He has, been raised in a by single parents, but he himself has not lived that, and his viewpoint of living with separate parents is different than actually living that life. So he doesn't understand that it's just like she's not trying to come at you and disrespect you or make you think that yes, reassurance isn't important to her because she has said it to you. I believe that it's important to her, but it doesn't have to be this and not the other. It can be a yes and. The reassurance is important to her, but so is, someone is taking over her for a day, doing all of the chores, letting her go off on a shopping spree or just having a day to herself, whether it's for her alone by herself doing her own thing or with friends or whatever. Like she just wants she wants someone to take care of her because it's always been her taking care of somebody else. So that's what he's kind of missing. And that bothered me. And even though like she's kind of explaining that to him, he has like this one track mind of, well, she told me this, but then she did this. And he's not kind of realizing that it's just a yes and situation here. So yeah, he kind of says like, you kind of think the situation is squashed. At least she thinks that the situation is squashed. But then he kind of says like, we'll talk about this later. She's like, still? Like, we're still going to talk about this? Like, I think she figures we're done talking about this, but nope. But before we kind of finish that up, let's take a little bit of a breather. We see the boys cleaning the floors and cleaning the bathroom and doing the laundry. And Kelly says to Joey, you're lucky you didn't have to pick up any dirty tampons. Listen, you dirty little hamster, you're going to clean up your own tampons. Okay? I'm not cleaning up anyone's fucking tampons. Sorry, not sorry. So anyways, let's go back to, well, before we go back to, we have Christina and David are kind of doing a little thing, a little mini date. And Christina seems to be just connecting with David. And she actually says that she only kind of wants to spend time with David at this point and no one else. Yike to Sam. But they do kiss here, which I'm not sure if they've kissed before, but I guess they haven't. I'm not sure. Anyway, let's go back to the drama. So Chris is legitimately just having a meltdown at this point. He's completely shutting down. And he says that he's kind of putting his walls up to kind of protect his mental health, which again, I get it, but I feel like he's blown this completely out of proportion. But anyways, he says that I don't know if this is going to work out for us. On what grounds? Because she said that she wants to, she agreed with an answer that one of the DILF said about whatever, and it's like you're just gonna run with it. Like, again, things are able to be a yes and, not a either or. Anyway, we're gonna take a little break again from the drama and take a little bit of a breather. So we see Kelly talking to Rob, and we find out that both Kelly and Rob have actually dated outside of the country. She dated a guy in England, he dated a girl in Russia, and the only reason that kind of didn't seem to go anywhere for him and this girl was because she was actually 20 years his junior, and he kind of just had this realization, which I think is actually really selfless of him, if true, which we don't see a lot of this in our age different couples. On my 90 Day Fiance, for example, thinking like Angela and Michael, for example, he kind of had this realization of, she's much younger than I am. She's going to want different things in life that maybe I've already experienced or I no longer want. For example, maybe potentially having kids. He maybe doesn't want to have any more kids. He's 59 years old, has 2 kids already. And as someone who's in their, late 20s or early 30s, potentially wants to have those things. So he basically decided to let it go. And they went their separate ways. Kelly and Rob, they kissed, man, on the first day. That's pretty crazy. Now let's go back to the drama. I think we're kind of going to be ending the episode off with this. So Barby goes to talk to Chris. And in his bed. By the way, he is in his bed. And he's doing the I'm tired, instead of just talking about his feelings and his emotions, saying, I'm fine, I'm not mad, I'm just tired. And it's like, no, sir, you're upset. Like, stop playing games here. And she's like, but I can tell that, he is. And he basically says at this point, he's like, I just felt disrespected. And he's like, I was going to take myself out of the situation. Which is really funny because wasn't it 2 seconds ago, my guy, you literally said, I'm not mad. But then you're like, well, then I felt disrespected. Like, which is it? Stop playing games. Let's talk your fucking feelings out. Anyways, Barby's like, you're going to shut down? Okay, cool. I guess I will just leave tonight. And she kind of just like Lynette did and whatever. And she's crying. She's saying like, I can't deal with this. She starts packing, we see. And she's like, he won't even look at me, talk to me. I don't deserve this. I don't ice him like that, she's saying. And she also says, I should have never had sex with him. Like she's just losing it at this point, which I feel for her. It's really tough. And I've experienced this myself in previous either situationships or relationships. I've had that you have sex with somebody and then all of a sudden they just switch up. They just do this slight little switch up, or they're just not being like whatever. And they weren't being how they were before. And you're instantly kind of like, is it me? Did I do something wrong? And you start just second guessing yourself and you start less, kind of saying to yourself, maybe I shouldn't have done that, maybe whatever. And I feel bad for her in that sense because unfortunately, I think a lot of women, especially women who have sex with men, have felt exactly what Barbie is feeling in this moment. So they don't lie when they say sex complicates shit. But anyways, we'll see how it goes for the next episode, of course. If we all watch this show, we already know. But we'll be talking about it in the next episode for MILF Manor. But that is it for this episode. Again, I'm going to try my best to make sure I get the next episode to you as quickly as possible. But I do want to get through some of the older episodes first. So this might be one that's coming to you later in the week, maybe even potentially on the weekend. See how it goes. But that is it for this episode of MILF Manor. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps, every one of them, including you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times 2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times 2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times 2 pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in any way, all the stuff. It's all there, and you can find me there at www.realityteatimes2, all spelled out, .podpage.io. It's there. And don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Kelle, Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube, and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information is overwhelming, we do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.